Well, we're excited to be in Louisville, I guess is the correct way to pronounce it. But certainly our team is excited to be here, and I haven't had a chance to see the inside of the building yet, but I'm really excited to get out there and see these Yum Center, and really grateful for the opportunity, and certainly looking forward to playing a terrific Maryland team tomorrow.
Thanks, Coach. Start over on the right side.
Coach, Jim Womble, ESPN Louisville. Can you talk about what Louisville is as a host city, and what do you think of the city overall?
Well, I haven't been here that often. We played here when I was in college, and then I coached here when I was assistant at Okie State. And I've been to the Derby a couple of times, and so that's about been my only experiences here in the city. But people here are nice, very friendly, and certainly the convenience of having the hotels and everything right here close to the Yum Center, I think, is great. And last night we were able to take our guys to Churchill Downs for dinner, so that was a special deal for our fellas too. So I think, as long as we play well, I think I'll really enjoy this place.
Now let's go to the middle aisle here on the right.
Coach Chick Hernandez, Comcast Sportsnet NBC. I know you played against Mark Turgeon in college. You also coached him. Mm-hmm. What are your recollections of him as a player, and what do you know you're going to get from a Mark Turgeon coach team?
Well, Turge was a good player. He wasn't very big, but he got about all the talent he had out of that 5'10", 160-pound frame he possibly could. I did play against Turge a couple of years. Our program wasn't quite at the elite level that Kansas's was, so he definitely won a couple more than we did when I played. But I had a chance to coach against him, when he was at A&M, and his teams are sound. He's very clever in how they use their personnel. Sometimes it looks the same, but it could just be a different angle or something like that makes it hard to scout and hard to guard. And they're always sound. So I think Turge is a terrific coach. I think he's an elite coach, and certainly he's got Maryland playing extremely well, and their team is very, very talented. I've said this before because it's happened with one of my teams before, but when you're ranked in the top 5, for a good portion of a season, at least multiple weeks, that means you have shown everybody that you can play to a number 1 seed level. And I think we're catching a team that, even though they're seeded 5th, our guys understand they can play to a 1 seed. So this is really a hard matchup because we really think a lot of their team.
Let's go back row on the right, then we'll come left and then go right.
Tim Sullivan, Courier-Journal, Louisville. Two-part question. You've coached various rosters, young veterans. What's the main difference, and do you think that last year when we had 2 freshman-dominated teams in the Final Four that was an anomaly, or we're going to see more of it? Well,
second first, I think that we'll see it again. I think, a lot of it just depends on good fortune. There's going to be recruiting classes out there that a university is going to get, 3 of the top 10 or 3 of the top 15 players in America, so-called, to their respective school. The way kids are picking schools now, a lot of them want to go with buddies. So that could happen again. Now, the way it happened last year, to have a couple of schools that everything fit perfectly with young kids, I don't think that's the rule. I think that's more the exception. But it will happen again. And there's going to be lightning in a bottle again, and because some of these young players are so talented. But certainly for me personally, because I've been on both ends, I'm not sure that there is an exact formula that works better than others. I think talent still prevails more times than not, but something about experience and having guys that have really invested into the program, I think lends itself to having guys prepare on a daily basis because they know this is what it is for them, whereas a lot of time the one and done kids know that, hey, this is just a short stop before they move on to the professional level. So, I mean, give me the best players. That would be my philosophy. But certainly, a team like ours right now, that you have one senior, but you have a bunch of vets that play a ton, I think is maybe the most enjoyable way to do it.
Coach, we're going over on the left side.
Kevin Haskin, Topeka Capital Journal. Hey, Bill. Just wondering how Frank's doing physically. Is it something you even worry about with his toughness? And also, if you can just kind of evaluate the point guard matchup in this one?
Well, you know, I've said this before. You know, Frank's a little bit like Jim Brown when he gets tackled. It takes him forever to get back to the huddle. So I think Frank's fine. I think his health is fine. I think he's had the nagging things that obviously bother anybody. I mean, does his hip hurt? A little bit. Does his foot hurt? A little bit, but not to the point where I think he'll be less than 100% when the adrenaline gets flowing. And he's going to have to be 100% because the point guard matchup is you know, there's a lot of great matchups in this game on paper, but certainly, you know, can Frank do a good job on Melo? And because when Melo's, you know, on top of his game, and when he's in attack mode, and he's playing with ease, he's as good as any guard in the country. So Frank's it is going to be a great matchup for Frank, but it'll also be a great matchup for Melo too, because they both have to guard each other. It's just not a one-way street.
Far right side.
Jerry Ahern, USA Today Sports. Bill, what's been the biggest difference in the way Wayne has played this season, and particularly in the tournament?
I think that Wayne, in his first 2 years, settled too much. I think that he did not play to his body or his athletic ability as often as what he can. And because I think Wayne can have great possessions and impact possessions even when he's not shooting the ball, and I think he's doing that more. He's getting to the free throw line a lot more, and he's driving it more and not playing to just the perimeter shot. So at least for the most part this year, that's been the case. And I think in the tournament, you know, Wayne's one of these guys that can give your team a lot of confidence because he can make some plays that nobody else on our team can make. So he's kind of like a physical leader for us. And he's a guy that's got a little bit of size and got a quick release, so he can maybe get a shot off that maybe some other guys can't do when you run bad offense. And so it's real important that he stay aggressive and he play well from this point forward, because you know, from this point forward, everybody's going to guard, and what happens is you got to make open shots, but you need to be able to make some tough shots, and he's a guy that can make tough shots for us.
Stay over on the right.
Bill, Greg Eklund, this is for Kansas Public Radio. The market of Louisville has had the #1 top TV rankings for college basketball, which leads some to say that this is the Mecca for college basketball. How would you make the case for Kansas and Kansas City being the college basketball Mecca?
Well, I think, you know, obviously, you know, in the Bluegrass State, everyone loves ball. I mean, that goes without saying. And I can't speak to television ratings because I have no idea. But I will say that when you stop and think about, you know, obviously us being 30 miles away, Missouri being you know, a couple hours away, K-State being a couple hours away, Wichita being 3 hours away, and then you look at you know, college basketball experience being there, the Hall of Fame, and then you look at NAIA national tournament being there, and all the NCAA tournaments that have been played in Kansas City at Municipal Auditorium or whatever. I think that you know, when you add up all the history, I think that you could make a case that Kansas City area is probably about as knowledgeable and historic a place that our game has seen. You could say the same thing about Philadelphia, obviously, but you know, Kentucky, unbelievable history, tradition, and all these things. But when the inventor of the game is your first coach, I think it definitely gives you a leg up on some folks when you start talking about history.
Left side now, then we'll hit the right middle.
Hi, Coach. Janine Edwards, ESPN, over here.
Okay.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
You said that you might be a tiny bit looser this year, and that you think that the personality of your team sometimes rubs off on the coach. So I'm just curious, in what ways have these players rubbed off on you How have they rubbed off on you?
I do believe that. They say that the team can take on the personality of the coach, but I think a lot of times the coach can take on the personality of the team if you trust them, if you enjoy being around them all the time, not just on the court but off the court. If they can give you grief and you can give it back to them and in fun ways. And I do believe that this team has rubbed off on me because I don't care what a coach says. It's hard to be real loose if your team isn't competing hard or not trying hard and not playing well. I mean, you want to encourage them and give them do-better talks to do better. But sometimes these guys police themselves, and I've really. I mean, we've had ton of one and dones, and we've had number one picks and a lot of lottery picks. But I've enjoyed coaching them all. But I don't know if I've enjoyed coaching a collective group more than what I have this year, just because it's fun for them. I mean, we're not my guys don't get near the credit they deserve for being as good of players as they are and NBA prospects. But at least that's my opinion. But the bottom line is they enjoy that underdog role. They're recruited to our place with the same expectations that Wiggins and Embiid were recruited to our place. And so when people don't talk about them, that gives them a chip. And I just love teams that operate that way. But still, yet they like each other and they basically there's one stat that matters, and that's wins and losses, and not individual performances. And they've just been so much fun to be around.
Right side middle.
Chris Lazarini, Kansas alumni. Coach Turgeon commented that he heard from Coach Brown this week, and you guys both coached under Coach Brown, and he played for him. Could you just talk about briefly the influence that Coach Brown has on young basketball talent to help them develop into elite level coaches?
Well, Turge and Coach are close, and they should be. He recruited him, he played for him, but I would bet that Coach is not real comfortable talking to me or Turge about the other team. I would bet that. But when you're a young player, a young coach, you think you know more than what you do, but you realize you don't know anything when you get around Coach Brown. So the fact that you can be around a guy like him early in your career, and he can influence your rest of your life, because you could learn 70% of what you're going to learn in that first year or two, just because you don't know anything, and he's a wealth of knowledge. And so I think that he would have great impact on anybody that he touches when they're at a young age, especially because we all had so much to learn, and he was such a wealth of knowledge. He gave it to us, and he didn't hide it from us, and he shared it. And I think that, I guarantee Turge still does the same drills he did with Coach back in the day. And I don't know if there's more of a sign of a respect that a coach could give another coach than actually believing in things that he learned 30 years ago.
Coach, last question in the back right corner.
Coach Bills, C.L. Brown with ESPN.com. You kind of just alluded to players kind of developing maybe a chip on their shoulder. How would you say that Shaq Diallo has kind of handled, he came in, there were a lot of outside expectations of what he would be. How do you feel like he's handled maybe not living up to those outside expectations?
You know what, Shaq is, and this isn't coach speak, he's as good a kid as we've had. He's been great. He tries hard every day, works as hard as anybody in our program. The bottom line with Shaq, and this is not a knock to him at all, it's just that we've had some other guys probably perform better with the other players on the court than what he was doing at the time, and then we got on a roll, and he's kind of been the odd man out. So just to be very candid, but Shaq will get the last laugh on everybody, and I think he knows that. I think he knows he's young in the game and he's got a lot to learn, but certainly his enthusiasm and his want to hasn't been dampened at all by not playing as much as I know he wants to play. But still, I feel confident that if his number's called, he'll be prepared to deliver because he prepares hard every day.